And what we find is battery technology sucks. It sucks. Like, you compare battery technology to just mining Bitcoin. Oh my gosh. Industrial battery companies got to be shaking in their boots. They're the ones, honestly, they ought to be out there saying that Bitcoin's bad for the environment. We must ban it, because that's their only hope for their industrial battery business to survive.
In the dynamic landscape of energy production, the rise of Bitcoin introduces a fascinating narrative of resource allocation and efficiency. Adam Ortolf's insights shed light on the intricate dance between traditional power generation and the disruptive force of Bitcoin mining. As we delve into the nuances of this evolving paradigm, Ortolf's perspective unveils the symbiotic relationship between Bitcoin and energy, challenging conventional wisdom and inviting a critical examination of our approach to power generation. Join us as we explore the complex interplay between renewables, fossil fuels, and the relentless march of technological innovation. This conversation might make some of you twist and turn in your seat as it challenges the conventional narratives we are fed by mainstream outlets. The realities we face with energy grids, fuel sources, and climate change pose very interesting problems for our society. The important thing to consider is that Bitcoin will lead the free market toward a solution that simply works and does not cause more problems than it solves.
The reason that Bitcoin, and you're absolutely right, Bitcoin uplifts all energy production and power generation, right? But it doesn't uplift all energy production and power generation equally. And that's because some power generation, energy production is a lot more inefficient. There's a lot more waste. Bitcoin thrives on waste. It seeks out waste. It's like an insidious, vacuum that creeps through markets and finds waste, ultimately creates massive opportunity wherever there's waste. Wind and solar are incredibly wasteful, right? They're very inefficient. They're called intermittent, or unreliable is probably a better term than renewable. And just so happens that with both wind and solar, like with solar, the sun's usually shining when people aren't consuming electricity, and it's not shining when they are. And with wind, oftentimes the wind's blowing when they're not consuming electricity, and when they need it, it's not blowing. And so there's these frequent moments of tons of production, no consumption, tons of demand, no supply. And so that waste, Bitcoin mining has started to thrive, right? People rightfully noticed, hey, anytime that we're producing a ton of power with solar and nobody's consuming it, let's push it over to Bitcoin mines. And then when people start demanding it, turn off the computers, push the electricity over here, because, they're willing to pay 10 cents per kilowatt hour. If they're not willing to pay that, then we'll send it, then we'll mine Bitcoin with it. Otherwise, we're going to sell it to them. And so that function, we're just still in the early days of that reality disrupting upstream power generation, and in the form of wind and solar, it's going in a big way. Same thing with oil and gas, right? There's tons of waste in the oil field. Bitcoin is going right after it. But what gets really fun is the numbers, right? Like you said about this being profitable or not. And I get calls all the time. I can't tell you how much time I've spent looking at the specific precise numbers of solar deployments and solar Bitcoin mining. I'll just give you a quick example, no more than 30 seconds. So if you wanted to have a 5 megawatt setup and you were going to use solar, that would cost you about $5 million, $6 million in solar panels for 5 megawatts. But if you want to run all the time, you need 10 megawatts of solar panels, because you need to produce double what you consume, and you need to send half of it to batteries so that at nighttime, your miners will pull from the battery. And then during the day, you'll power your computers and charge the batteries. So you need 10 megawatts of solar to run a 5 megawatt operation. So you need 10 million bucks of panels. But then in terms of batteries, what do you need? Well, you're running 5 megawatts for 24 hours. You need 120 megawatt hours of battery, which maybe 40, 50 grand. So for a 5 megawatt operation, you're talking about like a $55, $60 million investment. In the oil field with natural gas, 5 megawatt operation, $2.5 million bucks, you're off and running. Right now, the difference is, right, the solar's free. almost. Nothing's ever free, right? There's cost to operate. You got to clean the panels, right, and so on and so forth. But your marginal cost on solar is almost zero. With natural gas, even though it's a waste, but you have to maintain the engine, so there's some cost there. And I've run the numbers. How long would you have to run the solar operation before, in order so that the investment over here finally beat out this investment, right? Became more attractive. And it's like 44 years. Those are the numbers I'm running. Now, you throw in subsidies and solar maybe becomes a little bit more attractive, but I still look at the numbers and I go, I mean, this is why I'm shouting at the world and I'm often challenging people, is because I run these numbers. I'm a slave to the numbers. And man, natural gas and coal, from an investment standpoint, a little bit of money, for $2 million, you can power like literally 1,500 homes with a natural gas engine, and you need 40 million bucks, 50 million bucks to do the same thing with solar. As an allocator of resources,
right?
Where, as a society, if we spend our efforts and our capital and our resources doing solar instead of this, in 10 years, what kind of a different world are we going to see, right? Meanwhile,
Right.
China's building 2 new coal plants per week. We're
Right.
shutting down our coal, hopefully to replace it with some natural gas and nuclear later. China's got plans for, I think, 644 industrial coal plants over the next 2.5, 3 years, over the next,
Right.
36, 48 months. I don't know how we're going to compete. So I'm
Right.
trying to fight the good fight and swing the pendulum back, have people celebrate all energy, all power.
Today's video is sponsored by Stamp Seed. Don't store your Bitcoin in cold storage without stamping your seed phrase on an indestructible titanium plate. Stamp Seed is fireproof, rust-proof, impact-proof, and easy to hide. It has no loose parts and will give you ultimate peace of mind that your Bitcoin is safe and sound for the long term. Click the link in the description below for 15% off your stamping kit. Welcome to Bit Intelligence. We are committed to bringing you top-notch Bitcoin-only content, twice weekly. Doing this is quite a lot of work. If you are enjoying it and you'd like to support us in making more of these videos, subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. If you are willing to go a step further, consider contributing to our Lightning wallet on Geyser to help us get the funding we need to keep bringing you these videos. You can also join our channel here on YouTube for as low as $2.99 per month. Okay, back to the video.
So solar's great, right? The idea of capturing the sun's, it's this giant nuclear reactor in the sky, right? It costs zero to maintain it. It's fantastic. The problem is this: how do you produce a solar panel? Right? You have to mine minerals. You have to move earth. You have to dig in the dirt. You have to, get things like manganese and nickel and lithium and aluminum. How do you move earth? Right? You can't, we have no way of moving earth. We have no solar powered bulldozer or wind powered bulldozer. And in fact, we have no way of producing high grade steel without coal or petroleum. So what the bulldozer is made of is a petroleum product. The rubber tires, right? The loop, even if it's an electric bulldozer somehow, which, how did you ultimately get the minerals and manufacture the battery? How'd you transport it? Again, how did you cross the ocean? Did you have a battery powered super barge ship? These are the questions I want to have, right? Concrete, like industrial grade quality concrete that we use to build our bridges and things, and steel absolutely can't. Right now, we have no means of doing it, at least at any reasonable cost. But when it comes to high grade steel, we have no way of doing it without coal. So it's like, do we want to go back to cities being built out of wood? Because then we have to deforest. We have to cut down trees to use wood and then our cities will burn down. I personally don't want to drive across wooden bridges. I prefer steel, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what kind of quality of life do we want? Do you want to have open heart surgery in a hospital that's powered only by solar? On a cloudy day, does your life-saving, equipment go out? How do you even have an open heart transplant? Well, you have to get an organ from, New Jersey to LA in X amount of time at X amount of cost. to put it in somebody else's chest and save their life. That is an incredibly energy intensive service, right? Open heart transplant is like, it's a miracle of oil and gas and petroleum, right? You might not think about open heart surgery as a result of oil and gas. I guarantee, I promise you it is. So yes, while this idea of capturing the sun's energy and, life running autonomously on that energy and power, while that's a beautiful dream, so is unicorns running on rainbows, pooping glitter. It's just not reality. It's not reality based. I think, yes, we should always strive to increase our efficiency. I would argue that wind power is 15th century technology, right? That's nothing new. Solar power, even, like, humans figured out early on that there were these certain rocks which ended up having like high nickel and thermo properties, that they'd set them out in the sun and they'd store a ton of the sun's heat, and then they'd roll this rock into like their hut at night and it would just radiate heat. That's effectively the same. That's a battery, right? You just took the sun's energy, stored it in rocks, and then later on you discharge that energy effectively just by letting it dissipate, and you enjoyed that heat energy. We're doing the same, like a lithium ion battery. We dig rocks out of the ground, we just refine them, right? And then we charge them with electrons. Effectively the same principle. We've just increased that last 20% of efficiency. We've really pressed in and tried to get the most out of it. And what we find is battery technology sucks. I'm sorry, it sucks. Like, you compare battery technology to just mining Bitcoin, oh my gosh. Industrial battery companies got to be shaking in their boots. They're the ones, honestly, they ought to be out there saying that Bitcoin's bad for the environment, we must ban it, because that's their only hope for their industrial battery business to survive. Because every rational market participant sees the option of, hey, we could spend $100 million to have enough batteries so that we could, use that to help supply the grid. Or we could just overproduce our power generation and have $5 million, $10 million of Bitcoin mining, and anytime we have excess, we throw the electricity over to the Bitcoin miners, and the economic benefit there will be greater even than the operational benefit of batteries. I mean, batteries are not great. Solar and batteries are awesome at the point of consumption. So at the individual scale, like I am one of the biggest solar maximalists. I personally will have a $50,000, $75,000 solar installment on my own property. It makes sense at the individual level for robustness, like to be a sovereign individual, to not be reliant on, to have a backup method of producing power and electrifying my life. I'll also have natural gas, a backup natural gas generator, and probably a diesel, multi-fuel generator as well. But at the industrial scale, like hey, let's tear down this coal plant and put out a couple, square miles of solar. The numbers are terrible. The operational reliability and overall rating is terrible. I'm not an advocate for it, right? So these are the things these are the conversations I'm trying to have. I want to have these debates and say, hey, like, let's get serious. Let's look at the real numbers. Right. Get rid of your subsidies. As humans, where should we be investing our efforts? How do we want to build? What future do we want to build?
Adam's work prompts us to face the harsh realities and complex nature of modern energy systems. Through his analysis, he encourages us to re-evaluate the future path of our energy consumption, from the appeal of renewable sources to the continued dominance of fossil fuels. By embracing the dialogue that he advocates for, we can embark on a collective journey toward a more resilient, equitable, and conscientious energy landscape. Maybe, just maybe, Bitcoin will lead our society to an energy mix dominated by nuclear fuel, and we won't need to rely on either intermittent renewables or dirty fossil fuels. Only time will tell. Thanks for tuning into our channel today. If you're interested in watching another video about why Bitcoin incentivizes the development of clean energy, watch this one here. We'll see you next time.